Well, welcome everybody to the session. My name is Marina Travasari. I'm the Global Lead for Telecom Infra Projects Ecosystem Acceleration Centres, or TEAC for short. And we're also the Strand sponsor of today's event. Previous to this, I was Programme Manager for the West of England LEP Skills team for 4 years. So it is my absolute pleasure to be chairing this event on this session today on Digital for Young People, Connecting Education and Industry. I would now like to welcome our panel and ask them to introduce themselves and their organisations. Yes. Becky, would you like to start?
Hi, I'm Becky Irving, and I am the Interim Head of Talent and Skills at Manchester Digital.
Lovely. Shall I go next? Great. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and thank you for inviting me to be a part of the panel. My name is Rebecca Groves. I am Skills and Talent Strategy Lead at Wide Sussex. We're a membership organisation based in Brighton, serving the whole of Sussex. We've got about 2,000 digital media and tech businesses, and my role is to sort of work with them to understand the collective challenges they have around attracting, training and retaining talent, and then working with them to address that.
And hi everyone, I'm Sarah, hiding behind the camera. Apologies all. I'm like the secret squirrel. Yes, I'm the work for NCSC, which is the National Cybersecurity Centre, and I'm the lead for the Cyber First programme.
Fantastic, great. So for all the attendees, we will be taking questions towards the end of the session if we have time. So please do post your questions on the session tab, not the event tab, please, and I'll be monitoring it as we go along. So, okay, so there's been a lot of work done in pockets of the UK to try and get the curriculum aligned with industry needs and to build the talent pipeline fit for the future. Whilst demand for these skills may temporarily lessen as the economy recovers, it is important that we take the opportunity to embed an industry standard technology curriculum in every school and college in our regions. So the purpose of this panel is to share best practice between the regions, to look at how we maintain momentum around improving the curriculum in the long term, whilst keeping industry engaged to build a talent pipeline fit for the future. And it's also about creating opportunities for young people in the tech industry and to ensure that they can see a route in. So I would like to initially ask Becky and Rebecca to share the successes and what is happening in your regions on engaging engaging industry in the curriculum development. So Becky, I don't know if you'd like to start.
With Manchester Digital, we have got 3 separate programmes that we're responsible that do just that, connect our members, now industry partners within the sector in Greater Manchester, directly into education. So we have the level 4 software apprenticeship that we run, and that is developed in line with industry. So we have some of our businesses working alongside our learning coach to develop what that curriculum looks like and to make sure that they're not only learning through that process, but they are getting that direct input from industry as well. We also have a programme called Digital Futures, and another programme called Digital Her. Now, these programmes were around kind of live events and in-school delivery. And as we've obviously stumbled across this slight thing of a global pandemic, that changed how we have had to run those programmes, but we have continued and we've switched them online. So both of those programmes are around inspiring young people around careers in the digital and tech industry, but doing that through connecting them directly with our industry partners. So whether that's through career events, through role model events, and obviously the Digital Her specifically focuses on getting young women into the industry as well. So those 3 programs have been extremely successful for us in the past. And I think the appetite that we've had both from schools, colleges, and our industry partners as well to help continue these programs whilst we've been going through the pandemic has been brilliant as well.
That's fantastic. Rebecca, how does that compare to
some similarities. I think we've been piloting a project where we place industry with education providers to sort of embed industry partners with schools so that they can have that long-term relationship with education providers to both inform the education providers about all of the opportunities within tech, and also to work with sort of careers departments so that they understand the pathways to industry. We also do that a lot ourselves. So a lot of my time is working with education providers to take the collective insights that we have from industry and feed that direct to education. So we do that sort of directly through Wide Sussex. And also thinking about sort of wider education, and I think we've been putting a lot of thought as well into those people that may not be in education, so children that perhaps aren't in formal education. So we've been working with our local authority to look at how we can do some widening participation activities to think about those umbrella education providers that provide alternative routes to education. So we bring young people into the Fuse Box, which is a collaborative R&D lab that we run that has lots of technology in it. So we work with widening participation activity providers to bring young people here as well, and to help provide them with some of the skills and knowledge around technology so that they can support the children that way.
Right. Sarah, can I ask from an industry perspective, obviously you're representing the National Cybersecurity Centre, how are, I'm not going to try, I'll get the acronym wrong, so how are you, I'm just going to say how are you, creating opportunities for young people, and is there any alignment to what's happening in the regions as Becky and Rebecca?
Yeah, there is.
mentioned?
So if I start off with the alignment first and foremost, because obviously within Gloucestershire, I mean, we are a bit spoiled, obviously, because we have got GCHQ here, so it's naturally collects and also makes industry want to come and work with us. But we've been running a pilot called the Cyber Schools Hub pilot, and that has been working with all of the schools within the Gloucestershire and South Gloucestershire area, and also getting them to work in partnership with industry. So we've had nearly all of the local schools working with us, but we've had about 30 local industry supporters working with us as well. And those industry supporters have been providing work experience for schools, mentoring, offering apprenticeships, and they've also been investing in some of the schools. So one of the schools has had a Harry Potter lab being made for them by one of the industry partners. We've had another school that's done an experiment in wearable technology. Another industry partner has done something about making a greenhouse, and the kids have to do all sorts of experiments with the greenhouse in terms of turning the lighting off, the heating, air conditioning and things like that. And that's all been sponsored and paid for by industry. So that's been really, really cool. We've also got something called Cyber TV. So Cyber TV is a TV channel that has got lots of vlogs and videos that have all been made by industry. So industry are loading up all of these vlogs onto this TV channel for the students to watch. And it talks about how they've got into the cybersecurity sector, what their journey has been. It offers them interesting insights. And that seems to be really powerful because the kids can just dip into it at any point in time. So that's the one bit about how we've actually been working with the schools, which I think aligns both with what Rebecca and Becky have been saying. And then also the other thing that we've been doing just from an NCSC perspective is a government initiative all about Cyber First. And that's us, this summer we're running virtual courses, obviously to all students across the whole of the UK. Are cybersecurity focused, and they're 10 half-day sessions. But what we do is we get industry to come in and do sessions for us. So industry come in and do free talks on those courses. And that's all about, again, it is all very cybersecurity focused, but it's bringing to life the curriculum, and actually industry can then sort of say how they've got to where they've got to, and it just adds to the richness of what we're actually teaching the students. So I think those are two good examples. So one's us specifically what we're doing as a government department on behalf of the UK, and then the other is just what we've been doing as a local employer.
Fantastic. And the work that you're doing in schools, Sarah, and Rebecca and Becky, the work that's happening in your regions, is it just secondary schools or is it primary schools as well? Because one of the things that I remember reading from a report last year is that children from the age of 7 have quite an embedded idea of a career or what a possible career might look like for them. So I'm quite interested to see if you're doing any work in primary schools as well.
So I haven't got much. So we have just been, most of our focus has been on secondary schools, and that has been our primary focus. But we are also launching something called Cyber First Schools, which is going to be for exemplars in cybersecurity education. And one of the prerequisites of that is that those schools have to be looking down into primary schools and working with the primary schools, whether that be them bringing the kids into the secondary schools to have a look, or whether that be doing code clubs and things like that. So we're looking, from our perspective, is for the schools to do that primary school outreach. But as a government department, we haven't yet looked at primary schools, but I wholeheartedly agree that perhaps we should be.
Yeah, I'd agree. We've not actually done anything with primary schools yet. I think the youngest age we've sort of reached out to is year 8, year 9 within secondary schools, but we also go to colleges as well. So we've had that direct linked into people that not necessarily have an exact career path in mind, but have an interest in something, and we try to show how that interest can transfer into digital and tech. But I do agree there is probably some work that needs doing at that younger age as well, but we've not ventured into that yet.
That's quite interesting, because there is I think Sarah just mentioned having a reliance of the secondary schools filtering down the information to the primary schools, and it just to have a thought in your mind of any resources that's been developed within your organisations or being disseminated, that they can be cascaded and suitable for a younger audience as well. So I was quite shocked when I heard that statistic of the age of 7. It did shock me, I have to say. I could slightly ask another question to all of you, kind of looking at how local and combined authorities ensure that industry-led schemes, like you've just mentioned, are supported now, but also when the economy bounces back, we have the pipeline of skilled workers. So how can the local and combined authorities ensure that industry-led schemes are supported? Open to anyone.
Okay, I'll lead. So yeah, I do agree we need to. I think it was difficult when we went into sort of crisis mode in the pandemic, that everyone was thinking of the worst case scenario. I think we've been incredibly lucky in Greater Manchester that we have had the support from the combined authority. They've been committed to not only helping us continue to deliver the events that we had planned, albeit in a different format that we're turning them online, but also invest back into kind of the sector in any way that we can. So we're also doubling up on events for people that are maybe not in schools but are wanting to move into digital careers, and supporting the people within the industry as well. I think the importance for me is that we have that consistency, because what we're doing now is great, but we need to carry on that momentum into 2021 and 22 and 23, taking a break in the investment into the younger people and connecting them with industry. We will see the impact of that in years to come. So yes, we are in a pandemic, but we still need to be thinking about the future and how we build that future pipeline. So yes, we're very lucky at the moment. We are carrying on, and we're getting some really good engagement from the schools and colleges, and like I said, we've been really well supported by the combined authority, but we just need to keep that momentum and that consistency.
Yeah, I think it's about understanding what has worked, as well as Becky was saying, during this time, and then trying to embed that. And I think for me, what I've really noticed is the scale of what we've been able to deliver. I've given talks to hundreds of students during lockdown as part of their home learning, and actually that's something that maybe we wouldn't have had as much opportunity to deliver at scale. So I think it's looking at some of those things that have worked well and then investing in ways to embed that sort of long term.
Sure. And I think there's also we need to consider transferable skills as well. We've talked so far about young people in primary and secondary schools, or people not in formal education, but we have women returners, and there are a lot of transferable skills of people in certain industries that are coming into the digital and tech worlds, so that needs to be considered as well in terms of nurturing and developing the pipeline.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've actually done, I think I was saying earlier about Talent Fest, which we ran in April, and actually that focused a lot on people with transferable skills, and particularly return to work, and and the opportunities at the moment for people to acquire new skills and to think about how they can adapt the skills that they had to the digital sector. And we thought there was a huge take up from return to workers for that.
I think, Marina, just from a government perspective, I think the government are fully recognise that the 18 to 25-year-old is going to be a massive problem, or they are going to be the ones that are going to be facing the most unemployment, as you've already said. So we are going to be piloting and running some courses for adults to see if we can get adults interested in reskilling, albeit in cybersecurity. So we're going to be running a few pilots in the autumn. And then the other thing they are looking at is whether you could have sort of some learning platform that could be available all the time for adults as well, to enable them to reskill. But it's making sure that it's fully accessible, it's free. So maybe if they've got childcare responsibilities as well. So it's trying to have a look at all those inclusivity issues as well. So, but it's quite hard because it's such a huge swathe of people, and we're only going to be doing a tiny bit. And I think that's how can we all work together to help solve that problem, because we, especially within NCSC, we can't solve the problem alone. So it's what else could we do, and can industry help in that space as well?
Absolutely, and it's about bringing industry and education closer together, and everybody is part of that journey. So kind of moving on then, looking at the lessons we should learn from the skill shortages in the tech industry that we've had, and how we ensure we have that pipeline and we close that skills gap. And because of COVID, in 3 to 5 years' time, that gap hasn't increased exponentially. What can we learn from, what lessons can we learn and ensure that, how can we improve the responsiveness of education and training moving forward?
Shall I start? Yeah. So I think from what we have observed, especially from the cybersecurity sector, is the fact that a lot of the children today, or even the students, there are no formal career pathways. So the students are really struggling to see an end point, or know where to get to. So from our perspective, it's having a very clear pathway about how you could get into cybersecurity profession, and make them realise that actually it's not just being geeky. You can do cybersecurity HR, you can do cybersecurity policy, cybersecurity law. There are a whole breadth of topics, and that can't be exclusive to cybersecurity. It must be across the board in technology. Role models, we're really struggling, and I might be venturing in diversity here, but role model figures, something for the kids to aspire to, or even young adults actually, that those figures just don't exist at the moment, or if they do exist, we can't find them. And then I think the other thing that we are learning is that teachers haven't necessarily got the right skills today to be able to give the kids the education that they need. And I know that Department for Education investing heavily, 84 million in the NCCE hubs, but that we need to do more to help the teachers, or at least give the teachers the confidence to be able to teach the stuff that we need them to do today. So I think at the moment, those are our three sort of big insights that we are realising in order to keep that talent pipeline going.
Yeah, I would agree with you on those. From our point of view, obviously, that relationship between the industry and the educators and career leads as well is really important. If we don't necessarily know what skills are required today, tomorrow, the next day, how can we expect the schools to stay up to date with that, and then also be inspiring that next generation of people as well? So I think, I totally agree that we need to be, and we do this through the Digital Futures programme as well, but we need to have that direct conversation with educators, but also to make it to make that regional as well. So make it relevant to the areas that they live and the possibilities that are on their doorstep as well, and start to build those relationships. So it's one of the things that we've seen is young people don't understand the range that's available. So like you said, within cybersecurity, you can go into HR, whatever your interest is. And this is what I think we've really got to stress and get home to people. Whatever your interest is, there is a role within a digital and tech, within the digital and tech sector that will be right for you. And I think it's that understanding that, we don't even know what roles will be there tomorrow. And it's turning that around into quite an exciting proposition, and being at the forefront of something, and people coming through and not necessarily starting at the bottom. It's the opportunity to learn skills that actually not many people in the industry have. So it's a real opportunity for young people, and I think it's just continuing to get those messages across.
And I think Sarah's point about the visibility of roles is really key. And that's what I speak a lot when I go to schools. I talk about, I call them sort of hidden careers. I think for education providers, it's probably an easier job to talk about careers, maybe as a teacher or as a police officer or something like that, where you can see it and you understand it and it's part of your day-to-day life. But I think it's a harder job for the teachers and therefore for the students to think about all of the breadth of roles that are available in tech. And I think, as Becky said, so many skills play into so many of those roles. And so I think it's trying to provide visibility at all levels of the types of roles that are available.
Yeah, the consistent feedback that we got at the one event we managed to actually run live this year was that it was coding. I'm not a coder, and it's when you hear that and you kind of put yourself in the shoes of a young person. That's what they're seeing, and we need to really broaden that conversation so they see the potential.
Absolutely, and also educate the parents as well and the support networks of the young people. So it's not just the CAD, the careers, education, information, advice and guidance in schools, but it's what's going out to the parents as well, so they can encourage, the young people, and there is that awareness. And I'm just looking at the questions as well, because I'm just seeing if there's anything filtering into this section. James has mentioned tech at home is also inconsistent, especially in poorer families. And a lot of learners are working off phones or with limited data. So we need some way of leveling this up. Be quite interested very quickly to hear from the regions if you're doing anything around that to support families. So
from government, for our courses, anyone who's struggling with IT, we have got a laptop and a box provision. So throughout the whole of the summer, if any of the students are struggling, whether it be with a laptop, we're providing with a laptop and also 4G dongles as well to enable them to get access to the internet. And one of the things we are looking for maybe in the autumn or future is actually to start doing targeted interventions, maybe focusing on those areas of social deprivation and things like that. But it's quite hard, and also some people don't necessarily want to come forward and say that they are struggling financially, so you've got to get over that hurdle as well.
So we know there's obviously within Greater Manchester, the Combined Authority have been running a programme for that fund to supply the equipment. We are actually launching a campaign that's kind of supporting education, but supporting charities as well to encourage people to put that support in there. And that's one of the asks that we are still asking for, equipment and connectivity. On a different kind of side of things, what we have done is, because we know not all young people have access to a laptop, for the Digital Her programme, we set up an Instagram account so that all the content can be delivered. So role model videos, challenges, anything like that can be delivered through a mobile phone, because we know there is likely more chance that people have access to that. So we've started doing that as a way to just communicate directly as well for those that are struggling in kind of the traditional sense of being sat at a desktop computer.
Yeah, similarly, we try and sort of provide the content in as accessible way as possible, but also we are part of a diversity working group in Greater Brighton, which is trying to address this on a sort of a larger scale. I think it's an issue that's owned by everyone, and we're trying to sort of bring industry, education providers, community groups together so that we can try and look at some sort of long-term strategic way that we can try and reach out to everyone.
Right. I think, transformation of the industry begins with the diversity. I know, Sarah, we touched on that earlier slightly, and we're talking about areas of social deprivation. Today is International Women in Engineering Day, which is a moment to reflect on the gender imbalance that continues to exist in tech and engineering. Given that the tech sector is still very white and male, how do we ensure that we're building a diverse pipeline to ensure the tech industry becomes inclusive and diverse? So as a question to all of you, very conscious that we've also already probably got about 6 minutes left. So just to flag the time. So how do we make our industry more diverse? What's happening in the regions? What's the initiatives that you're running or engaged with? And where are you seeing the successes, more importantly, the best practice?
Sorry, you can go first.
Shall I talk very quickly then? So we run an all-girls competition for Year 8 girls. So that has had 36 girls take part to date. I think it's the UK's biggest all-girl competition. And the reason we do it at Year 8 is to try and encourage the girls to take the right GCSEs, and then they can do our courses to do the right A-levels, and then encourage them to take the right degree. So it's creating that pipeline that we've talked about all the time. And then I think the other thing, obviously, we run the bursary programme. And for the bursary programme, which is a sponsored programme to enable students to go through university, to support that, we've changed all of our branding and all of our imagery. So it's no longer the hoodie with all of the binary stuff behind them. It's very vibrant. It's inclusive. We're trying to make it as a brand that's available to anyone. And I think that's quite important. I think it was Becky that you talked about it, that some of the kids feel that they're not a coder and therefore they don't want to get into this sector. So if you can change all the imagery and all of the branding, that might help. And on the bursary programme, I think we've got 32% girls now applying for our programme, which we think is really, really good. It's not good enough, obviously, because it could be better than that. But we're heading in the right direction. Every year on year, we're seeing more girls apply for our schemes. So we must be doing something right, but we are just scratching the surface. So I fully recognise that.
Yeah. Similarly, we run the Digital Her programme. So that is aimed at secondary school and college age. This year we are targeted with reaching over 1,200 young women. We will probably exceed that because we are doing it online, and we have got some national events going on. But as part of that, we do kind of what would have been the in-school delivery. So we have online resources that people can download. But we also offer a scholarship out as well. So we've had 4 places for a scholarship. So that's kind of at the older age to go on to do a 3-month junior developer course. And in addition to that, and I think one of the things that's really important is that part of the programme is that we have a whole host of role models. And we're incredibly lucky in Greater Manchester. We've had so many women sign up for this. But it's really important to us that we get the diversity of women across the roles. Across different ethnicities, how people look, how people speak, the roles that they're doing, their careers, their career journey so far. And it's important that people see people that they can relate to. So we've been doing a series of videos that we've been sharing just on people's journeys and whether they've done a career change, whether they've gone to university, whether they've done an apprenticeship, what they've found hard, what they've loved. And it's just making it kind of really real. And we've also, because it's now online, we used to do this face-to-face in schools, but we have kind of role model meetups as well. So they can get face-to-face with people in industry and ask them the questions, ask them the things that they're concerned about. So that's been a really, really successful part of the programme for us. And that seems to be what people really want from the college and the school side as well.
And it is really important, you have to have role models that look like you when you're going to school, ethnicity, gender, disability, everybody needs to be able to see all those protected characteristics are represented within digital tech. So I really, that is really important to have those role models. Rebecca, I just wanted to just see if you wanted to comment on that question.
Thank you. Yeah, I think to echo a number of the things that have been said, similarly, the role modelling, and we do that in a number of ways. As I was saying before, we have Talent Fest, and we've really tried to focus that as well on reaching out to diverse groups, to make sure that we have diverse panels and speakers, and to make sure that the content is something that will drive diversity within our sector. Also at Talent Fest last year, we launched our Skills and Talent Manifesto, which aims to make Greater Brighton the best place in the UK for anyone to have a fulfilling career in digital. And for me, that emphasis is really on anyone. And so from that, we're developing with our sort of pledged companies, we've got almost 100 companies pledged so far, to develop with them ways that we do that and ways that they can do that both as businesses, but also collectively as a group. And then I think key for us is sort of our diversity working group as well, which is a community that was founded out of last year's Talent Fest, where we are sharing best practice and trying to improve together to increase the sort of the routes into industry, and importantly to make our businesses more inclusive. I think that inclusive part is really important. So we're not only getting diverse people in, but we're making them feel valued for what they bring. And I think the sort of the lived experiences that you get from a diverse workforce is really needed to be more championed, so that it's not just seen as a tick box.
Absolutely. And also having opportunities of part-time work and flexible working. And, you know, we're all working from home pretty much at the moment now, but kind of post-COVID, you know, will that continue to support people who need to work from home? So I'm conscious that we are out of time, and I have one last question for each of the panel members. If you had one ask in terms of economic recovery plans, what would it be? What would be the biggest lever the local government could use to help the development of tech skills in the regions? Who would like to? Sarah? I'm hoping Sarah's still there.
Shall I go? So I think the biggest thing for me, and I think I mentioned this before, is that we have consistency. And yes, the economy, we are in a difficult place with the economy at the moment, and you know, industry is feeling that as well. But we need to continue to invest in these programs. We need to continue to invest in getting the message in front of young people, or else what we're going to see in a few years' time is that we have a problem. We have that big gap. We don't want to undo the work that's like the great work that's already been done. So continual investment to keep that momentum.
Yeah, I think the consistency and sort of that investment in the ecosystem for all of this sort of activity, and for it not to be reactionary, but actually to have a long-term strategy around it, I think is really important.
Absolutely. And I think just looking at the last question, Jill McKenney has said it'd be great to get the regions together to discuss best practice. Well, we've dipped our toe in the water this morning. We only had half an hour, but I'm sure the UK Tech Cluster Group will, as they say, they've recorded all the sessions and will be collating all of the feedback. Thank you very much, Rebecca and Becky, for joining us this morning. We have lost Sarah, unfortunately, behind the cybersecurity wall. Just to remind everybody, there are polls to complete on the poll tab where you've been posting questions. So if you could complete those, we are now breaking for lunch and returning at 1 o'clock. So you have the opportunity to do so then. Ladies, thank you very much for your time. And I'll look forward to seeing you later in further sessions.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.